So teachers, basically this session is going to be about, for some it is your cup of coffee, but for some it might not be. Preparing questions, choosing questions from your textbook. Maybe it could be for your classwork assignment or worksheet, or for any kind of assessments. So if given a question paper, I mean, most of the schools will give you this work. You have to prepare question paper for class 3 or class 4 or class 5. Do you really enjoy preparing a question paper, teachers? We actually, for some, it is like, oh, why am I given so many? But for some, it is like, it is like a laddu. We love to prepare question papers, or for some, it is like, I have to sit hours together and, things I have to work on it, make it foolproof, all that. So for me, whenever I'll be very eager, give me some more, give me some more, give me some question papers to do. Give me some 3 or 4 also, I don't mind, because I love taking questions. It's not that we sit in one day and we do it. Maybe when we take lessons, at that time it's of, oh, how we can frame a question for this particular answer. And we are teachers, we have different perspectives of asking a same question. So I'll be thinking from, what if a Chennai teacher asked this question? What if my parallel asked this question? How she would have interpreted this question? Maybe I will maybe I'll think about list out the effects of air pollution. But in case if I want the child to understand few verbs from the Bloom's taxonomy, I would write, instead of list out, I would love to introduce a word there, enumerate. So that could be a very new word for the child if this question is asked in an exam. Definitely teachers, as teachers, we are not supposed to test our knowledge in the exam room, which some teachers really do that. Maybe they want to test how knowledgeable they are in their question papers. But please, teachers, because we do have children, we have come across, when we sit for exams, what panic or how fearful we'll be, the same kind of thing you would see in a child who's sitting there in an exam room. So whenever there is an exam, it is for the children. So we have to test what knowledge transfer has happened, not testing your knowledge or your capabilities in the exam. So please make sure that you're not testing your knowledge, because we come across that. When we see a question paper, literally, I have cried many a times. Oh, how my children are going to attempt. Many teachers also would have done the same. Maybe this is a tough paper. How children are going to attend this. So don't make anybody feel that. So whenever it comes to a question paper, especially the term papers, especially the term ones, make it student friendly. Other assessments, like you can have a class assessment, you can have the school assessments, you can set up the bar high in your school assessments, maybe not the term. Definitely, when the child sits for the term exam, imagine your own child sitting for the term exam, and then the child comes with a long face, Mama, I didn't understand anything, the paper was tough. So the 12 months, whatever hard work we have put in, on the child has put in, there it's a big question mark there. That did anything happen just because a teacher wanted to show their knowledge level? So let teachers, the humble request which I make to any of my parallel who I see also, whatever you want to test, you want to set a bar high also, do it in the school exams or in the class test, but not in the term. So with that note, we'll just proceed into how to pick questions, or pick relatable questions, or questions which kindle their curiosity or test their knowledge level. Fine. So this is a quote which was said by Albert Einstein. So first we'll go there. If I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. So understanding the question, like children, what you ask, it has to be very crisp and concise. So if they understand what is the question, definitely they'll be able to pen down the answer. Or sometimes they just go out of the question and they'll answer so many things for which will not be able to give them marks. So here, please tell your children to read once, twice, thrice, and understand what is asked. For slow learners, we will tell this keyword, if it is there, you write all the things which you know. But for others, because when they come to higher grades, the level of difficulty is more and it is more and more challenging. So please ask them to read the question and the complete part of the question. we see so many children who read only the first half of the question and miss the next half. Like, for example, if I have to say, there'll be questions. So supposing we give a diagram of a human digestive system, and then we ask them to, the subdivisions may go like this. Label the part A, B, and C. So we would have drawn the diagram and identified, supposing this is the diagram, imagine this as A. So, and this is B. And we have labeled something in the small intestine as C. The first part of question will be like, identify A, B, and C. So as soon as the child sees that, oh, I know the answer, I know the answer. So the child will write A, B, and C, but there'll be a tail for it. Write the function of them. So they might not see that and they will lose marks there. So tell your children repeatedly to read the complete question, because our brain, it is trained in that way that when it sees something which it relates to or which it knows very well, it just stops with that. I see this problem even with a 10th standard child. The child is familiar with one part of the question, the mind stops there. It will not read the further one. So please ask your children to read the question and understand what it is, even the complete question. The child has to read completely. And ma'am, we'll just proceed with it. How to, how your questions are going to be, sorry. How significant a question is. It's a powerful tool that can cause the desired impact and invoke the right emotions and thoughts. A good question can ignite creativity and also educate students. While developing good questions may seem like a pretty straightforward task, it is not simple as it looks. A good question needs to have a personality of its own, which may be specific characteristics. Here are some of the essential characteristics of a good question. So first is relevance. For example, it focuses on really one of the material covered in your lesson and aligns well with overall learning objectives. So learning objective of a lesson, definitely, supposing if the lesson is about a habitat, or if the lesson is about feeding habits of animals, or about the food, as teachers, we prepare lesson plans. So we write some objective, like child should understand what is habitat, and it should be able to differentiate between terrestrial and aquatic or arboreal habitats. And then the child should be able to identify the animals that live in that and the adaptations of such. So whenever you prepare a question paper, see that whether you have achieved the objective of the lesson. Apart from that, there will be so many other things also in a lesson where they have given as no more or extra knowledge or some fun facts. I also see teachers taking something extra. Maybe you would have taught in your class, but you will not know whether even your parallel has taught it. Maybe you go the extra mile to teach that topic to the child or teach that fact to the child, but we do not know whether your parallel has discussed this, or whether if it is a common question paper from across the schools, they have taught that. So whenever, again, when you prepare a question paper, please make sure that you stick on to the objectives. Achieving the objectives is more important. Whether in the lesson, what is the most important thing the child should know, take away from that lesson. If the lesson is about food or digestion, what is the takeaway from the lesson? Is it about dental caries? I would say dental caries and digestion makes a small part of it. But in the part of digestion, first the question will be, what is digestion? So test whether the objective of the lesson is achieved. So for example, I have a question like this. What are the branches of soil science? For an introductory lesson that focuses only on the types of soil, maybe the lesson is about the soil and types. So it doesn't really qualify as a relevant question. So a better form of asking the question, the content will be, what are the characteristics of each type of soil? Maybe we talk about clay, sand, or a loam soil. So we could reframe it like, what are the characteristics of each type of soil? So that comes into the objective of the lesson. So, okay, so shall we move on? So next is about the clarity, how clear your question is going to be. Like, a good question is framed in clear, easily understandable language. Again, this is going to be a science paper, not an English paper. Like some teachers who have a good vocabulary. Everybody has a good vocabulary. So keep it simple for the child to understand. Or if you're going to test it, you make sure that you have repeatedly said this word in the classroom. Like, for example, I was surprised to see that my son didn't attend a question which asks about distinguish between. Distinguish the word between something, maybe a planet or a star, something like that. So I was shocked. I said, how comes you didn't know the word distinguish? It could have been that the child has missed it to take it from the class, but this is all very simple terms. Instead of the word differentiate, the child also should know what is distinguish. So it is in the hands of the teacher that you tell them repeatedly when you frame questions in your classwork, especially for your classwork or your class test, you tell them side by side, this question can be asked even in this way. If there is a difference between the sun and the earth, definitely a DAVN paper will not be like that, a direct one. If I were to ask it, I'll give distinguish between X, which is a hot ball of gas, and distinguish between, the other one, Y, which goes around the X. So what is X and Y? So what is the path in which the Y goes around the X? So please give them, introduce the new terms in your classroom. Even the question can go like this: advantages and disadvantages. That is a small word which we know, like a common basic word which we know. Advantages, we tell all the positives or the good things. Disadvantages means you have to write the negatives or the bad things about something. Now we will be introducing a new word also, maybe merits and demerits. So that is also an equivalent word for asking advantage and disadvantage. So we have to learn what are the new terms, vocabulary to how a question will be asked, because there's so many minds now, so many minds across DAV sitting there, and they want to challenge the child. But for that, every teacher should be equipped. So that is why we have sessions like this. So in case of questions like this are asked, please don't get panic. You have to be prepared for it, because initially the child is going to lose marks. Definitely you're going to be disheartened. But later, you will understand that, okay, this is going to be the rule. Fine, we have to step up. So that is why we are giving you inputs now itself. This is going to be like this. And like activity-based questions, generally we ask, maybe write an activity to show that sunlight is essential for photosynthesis. So instead of asking one complete question, maybe this goes for 3 mark or 5 mark, but we can split it up. For example, again, we introduced one term. What is the inference? Maybe we give a diagram of a plant which grows very well, which is kept in sunlight, and plant which doesn't grow very well in sunlight. So what do you infer from this? How many of you teachers may think that children of your class know what is the meaning of the word inference? Maybe majority would say no. Am I right, teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
We didn't introduce.
Ma'am, may I try, ma'am? Excuse me.
Yes, please, teacher, please.
Ma'am, and inference means what is the output? What will be the result?
Yeah, the conclusion. But does
Yes.
your child know that? If I ask you this question, maybe I give them the diagram, like a plant which grows in sunlight. So I just give 2 diagrams. I just give 2 diagrams. I put some terms like there is a potted plant A, potted plant B. This plant was watered and kept near the window where the plant can get sunlight, but this plant was not watered. There was no sunlight. So what is the inference you draw out of this experiment? So definitely your child will be baffled in the exam room. Inference theriyade. So the child will leave a blank. But we have to prepare the child. See, how do I just a bit, because I do have a son in lower grade. So what do I do is you just hide the word which you don't know. Maybe you just hide the word with your hand and then read the other parts of the question. You will be able to get something. Instead of that one particular word, you try to substitute other words. What, when, which, maybe whatever you know, you try to substitute or get something from the picture. So the picture says something. There is a sun, the plant grows well. There's no sun, the plant is not watered. So you please train your children to attend all the questions regardless of whether they have understood or not. Mere attempt, they have to make it. So that is a practice, again, that's in our hands. Don't leave a blank, because lower grade children, they're very good at dash, 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 dash. Once they don't know that, dash. So we will train them not to put dashes. At least something relevant. Let the child make an attempt at least. So ma'am, this word's inference, because I remember once in class 5 question paper, this word was asked. I do understand that this is little higher for the children, but let us not leave any stone unturned. Let the child come and not question us. Why didn't you introduce this? Let the parents not come and trouble us by asking all these questions. So take the Bloom's taxonomy. All would be familiar with that. You try to introduce so many words from that. Elicit, illustrate, because this was also given. Illustrate the process of photosynthesis. So what is the child supposed to do there? It is just supposed to draw. So how do we ask this question in simple terms is that draw and label diagram of photosynthesis. But it is not going to be asked it in the same way. Maybe sketch the diagram, sketch. Oh, child will say, Mummy, I didn't bring sketch. So I didn't draw, I didn't color. So sketch is nothing like coloring. Sketch is again to draw. So I'm just giving you some more terms there. So introduce all these terms in your classroom again for the sake of the child, because the child sits for the whole year, and let the child not lose marks there. And of course, we sit in a room, discuss the promotions of the children, and we don't want to get bombarded in that room also. Our averages do matter. So about the clarity of the question, like a good question is framed clear, easily understandable language without any vagueness. Students should understand what is wanted from the question, even when they don't know to answer it. The question is, what are your rights? So what is my right? I can kick my brother. I can scold my grandmother. I can go late to home. I can throw my bag. So these are all, the child considered that to be right. So what are we specifically asking there? So it should be specified. So this question might be perceived as confusing and vague. It's vague. It can be anything. What are my rights? My right is to come to school, ride a cycle. I can eat. I can go talk to my friends. Everything the child consider it as right. So instead, you have to be very specific what you expect as answer. So if you ask, what basic rights are covered under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights? I think this is higher for grade 5, but I'm just giving you an example. Just as an example. So what are the rights maybe covered under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or what are the fundamental human rights? You can ask that as a question. So it becomes clear and more specific. So in your answer key also, you can just frame, you can write only those answers. Next, it should be concise. Concise in the sense it should be very crisp. Omits any unnecessary information that requires students to spend time understanding it correctly. The idea is not to trick the learners, but assess their knowledge. Again, that's what it is not. Teachers again and again, I tell, it is not testing our knowledge. Definitely not our knowledge. It is the child's knowledge which we are going to test. So for example, I have asked this question: how does climate change affect the ecological balance and biodiversity of our planet? So these are all too high terms, too high for a class, even 5 child. Maybe only then they will know what is biodiversity. You know, it is too far high, but just as an example, this question may be relevant and important, but it is too complex and advanced for a class 3 or class 5 child also. So it can be simply rephrased. What are the steps we can follow to help protect our environment? So this is one part of the question. What are the steps we can follow to help protect our environment and also the animals that live in them? So keeping the language simple. So keeping the language simple, please teachers, we will, that's what, as I say, when you prepare a question for the term, majority of our question papers, you know, don't put your knowledge into it. Please keep the language very simple. Next is purposeful. A question with a definite purpose, without a definite purpose, doesn't have a value. So the purpose helps to evaluate the question against some set benchmarks. A good question can be both innate and specific knowledge. A question stating, what is the capital of France? So it is just coming under recall or recollect only from that remember part of the Bloom's taxonomy. So it is just their memory to answer it. And if that is the purpose you have set, the question is totally justified. If it falls only in the category of the remember, recall, that is fine. But if the purpose is to evaluate and enhance the student ability to reason, so the same question might need to be stated: how Paris is well located to be the capital of France. So they'll be listing out the characteristics of, you know, why that place was chosen to be the capital of France. Like, why is the Delhi the capital of India? Why it was not the other states or the other, why there was no other it is why we didn't choose maybe somewhere in the middle, Madhya Pradesh, or we didn't choose Chennai as our capital of India, why Delhi is chosen. So questions should be purposeful. What are we trying to ask, achieve there? Does it fall under the remember category, recall category, or I want to check, I want to analyze here what student is able to apply here. So frame your questions based on what you expect. The next part is guiding, but not leading. A good question guides the learner towards understanding the concept in the picture, but at the same time, it doesn't lead to specific answers. For example, does deforestation affect the water cycle and the availability of fresh water? So question, this is a question. So the expected answer would be definitely yes, because the question starts with does. So it could be a simple yes for an answer, but are we expecting yes for an answer? But if a child writes yes for an answer, it is not wrong because you have asked like that. The question asked like that. It didn't ask for any explanation. So directly if the child writes yes, but you may not award full marks for that if it is a 2 mark or 3 mark question. So please, yes, Bona ma'am.
I'm really sorry for the interruption.
Please, no, not at all.
This question, does deforestation affect the water cycle and the availability of fresh water? If we add the second part of the question, explain your answer or justify
that
your
will make
answer.
sense. That makes sense. Otherwise, if the child writes just an yes, ma'am, will you tell that the child is wrong?
No.
Because you didn't ask any explanation. Because, sorry, this question doesn't ask any explanation at all. Or in brief, write 2 or 3 lines to justify your answer. So we have to be careful about what questions we ask and how we ask questions also. Later, we should not blame the children for writing an answer like this, because that is what is the expected answer. Yes. Because at this stage, child will not know how lengthy should I answer for a 2 mark or 3 mark or 5 mark. We didn't train it that way. But again, this is one more point which I want to tell hereafter. If you see that there is a 2 mark question, 3 mark question and 5 mark question, tell them that for a 2 mark, you please write 4 points, minimum of 2, maximum of 4. A 3 mark question, minimum of 3 points, maximum of 4 points. Because when you sit for an answer key discussion, especially across the DAV group of schools, they give you a lot of subdivisions, half plus half plus half plus half. That's how it goes. But the question would have not asked 4 points, or it would have not mentioned for the number of points. But when you sit for an answer key discussion, which across the schools you will have to follow, so then the child will lose marks. The child will be penalized. So please make it a point that if it is a 2 mark question, you please guide them, you please tutor them that you have to write at least minimum of 2 to maximum of 4 points. And then for a 3 mark question, minimum of 3, because if they write 3 points, it'll be 1 plus 1 plus 1. Or if the teacher frames it like 6 halves, we have to accept that also. So like instead of this question, it could be simply rephrased as what are the impacts? Again, you see, this is a word which children might not know in the lower classes. Impacts, again, I can make it as simple effects. At least this the child would have come across at some point of time, effects. Or ma'am, one more word is that, ma'am, can anybody please give me one more substitute word here instead of impact or effects? Teachers?
Ma'am, what are all the consequences you can say, no?
Thank you, ma'am. Consequences. So these are all, see, we know, that we are not native speakers of English, but then this type of questions, this type of words are very common now. So let us not say that this is higher. Consequence, you tell them in class. Viளைvugal, consequences. That also means effects, that also means effects, that also means impacts.
Results, ma'am. Like if it can be too simple, we can also use results. The children can also grasp it
easily, yes. But I'm telling you to prepare for the worst also. It could be a consequence.
Actually, during revision time, if you are using these kinds of words repeatedly means, then children will come to know now, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm suggesting you not only during revision time, especially when you're taking class itself, you just ask this word many a time. What are the consequences? See, you will face the consequences. So you tell them and ask them to, get the word. You give them 5 sentences. I know we are not English teachers, but sometimes I do that. I don't give the answer very easily to them. I'll give them 2 sentences. Like, if you throw the food out, if you don't eat your food, the evening you go, you will face the consequences from your mother. So we extract the, the equivalent word from them. So they will think, oh, consequence na. So eliciting it from them itself.
Yes,
you will face like you will deal with the consequences. If you are noisy, if the class is noisy, the consequences will be severe, bad.
Yes,
so you tell them in sentences, very simple sentences you can tell, and they will come up with many equivalent words for that.
Yes.
So that is how they have to learn, ma'am. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
So next is a question should stimulate their thinking. It's not only from the the class of remembering, recalling, but also they should involve a lot of thinking also, because there'll be at least 5% of the children in your class which are extroverts and they are not satisfied with anything that which we give them, and they want everything extra. So a good question requires learners to think and recall the concepts taught. It doesn't patronize them by asking the obvious. They'll be testing whether you know that. Because there are children I have come across, they will read the lesson already and they'll be testing whether we know it. So for them, that is not enough. We have to give them something extra. We have to feed them something extra. So this question, if you see, can you survive without water? So what is the expected answer? Definitely some children, maybe they'll tell, no, ma'am, for a few days we can live. And some will tell, yes, ma'am. I mean, that's what, no or a yes. But then the same question, how it can be rephrased to make them think. This is a direct question. Everybody knows that we say you have to drink water, water is important, water is used, all that we say. But the same question, it can be rephrased. So that doesn't stimulate, this doesn't stimulate any thinking, because the question you are asking a universal fact. Why is it important to conserve water? Ma'am, is this word introduced in your class, conservation or conserve? Will children be able to identify the meaning of the word? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
If not,
ma'am,
please save. Instead of the word save, we use this word conserve. So that's what, when you put up this question on the board, how do we save water? Put a slash, conserve. So basically, how I do my classwork is, I do it this way. What are the ways which we can save water? I put a slash, I write the same word here, conserve. I put it in bracket, but. So how many ways to ask a question, because the child should not be baffled again in the exam room, panic. I really don't want that to happen. So what are the equivalent words? How it can be tested? So please think of it, and then you give the substitutes. I even put like this or question. What are the consequences? I give or. So many ors in my question, but answer will be same. So answer is going to be the same, but the way of asking questions is different. So the question goes like this: why is it important to conserve water, and what are some ways we can do it? So this is a question that stimulates the thinking. Definitely. Why is it important to conserve water? Because water is used for so and so cases. And what are the ways? Definitely, I can say rainwater harvesting or closing the leaky taps. So hereafter, we are not going to say that water is used for plants. Of course, irrigation, again, for watering the plants, we'll substitute it with irrigating. Apart from, water is helpful for maintaining the body temperature and all that, we also can introduce so many more things to them. Maybe that will serve the purpose for the children who always want to go beyond something. Can you give me one particular answer, ma'am, which you didn't think of, like how to conserve water or in what ways we can do, but the child has told me this, especially when it came for the lesson water. Maybe as teachers, we would have thought that uses of water, no, we would have a list, no, ma'am, like for plants, we need water for brushing, for cooking, and like that. Any other extra out of the box answer did anybody give in your classes, teachers, in uses of water? Okay, maybe
electricity. From electricity,
yes,
we can
hydroelectricity. Yes, it was wonderful, ma'am. water is used to produce hydroelectricity. So that also you can include.
And also
If
the
child
water
wants-
helps to transport the water minerals to our cells.
Yes, to our cells, helps in transport. Yes. So as ma'am said, thank you, teachers.
Ma'am,
Please,
we
ma'am.
have a point in our book says we have to use the bucket water instead of shower water to take.
Shower. Long showers. Avoid taking showers, long showers. So even that's what, see, we will not limit it to we need to water plants, we need to drink, it is used. That's what, as ma'am, so many teachers told, you can put all this. Whatever the child wants to learn, let it learn. So we may think for a class 3 child, maybe hydroelectricity is too much, but there'll be some 2 or 3 in the class who knows about hydroelectricity. So let us not limit it here. So tell them the extra thing also. Those who listen, definitely, maybe they'll put it in your answer sheet also. So you'll be happy at that point of time. And then single dimensional, that is, we are not testing so many objectives in one question. It has to be only one objective per question, or if you want to ask many objectives in one particular question, then make it a subdivision. Don't put everything in only one question, because the child, as we say, the human brain tends to see the first part of the question and the child will answer and skip the other part and will go to the next one. But if there is a subdivision, again, we have to train teachers. In our papers, there'll be a lot of subdivisions, like number 1, number 2. And in this, again, there'll be an A and a B. So expect a lot of subdivisions. You tell them maybe just a small check it, like a small tick you may have. So once you finish this question, put a small tick in the question paper so that you don't miss out anything. So single dimensional, remember, one question is one question, and hence a good question focuses on one dimension at a time. So if there are multiple ideas to evaluate, it is better to split them into multiple questions. So how does deforestation affect the lives of the tribe, and how does the Right to Forest Act 2007 protect them? I think this is there in class 5 NCERT text. Whose forest lesson or something this is from? So this is now 2 questions. So the child reads, deforestation affect the life, the child knows. Right to Forest Act is another concept. So better reframe it. It is a multidimensional question that there are 2 things at a time you're examining. So you divide it. How does deforestation affect the lives of the tribes? And then what is the Right to Forest Act 2007? So always have some subdivisions in case if you're testing more than one objective or a concept which you're going to test. So we'll just go to the pattern, ma'am. I'll just start with the pattern. Like you match the following is a very common thing. But ma'am, can we do, teachers, can we participate? Can you help me to match the following, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
birds. What do we do with first, birds?
Feathers to keep warm.
Okay, birds number 1, feathers to keep warm. Frog?
Lays eggs.
Lays eggs.
Okay, I'll put it number 2, lays eggs. And
And
Nectar from plant.
internal ears.
Yes.
okay, internal ears.
We
B.
collect nectar from
Collect
frogs.
Collect nectar from plant.
You see, what is wrong if I write birds lay eggs?
Yes,
What is
ma'am.
wrong in that?
Yeah.
Frog also lays egg, ant also lay eggs, bees also lay eggs, fish also lay eggs. So this is complete ambiguity. So what do we understand from this, teachers?
Actually, the remaining things also have the match, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
Definitely, but if the child writes that, will you penalize the child? That is my question.
No, no. We
No,
need to
no.
give
You
mark.
can't.
We have to give
You
marks.
can't. So what, as teachers, we should do? Write an answer key. Whenever you prepare a
Yes.
question paper, simultaneously, you please prepare an answer key. So somewhere I have been commented that I have a hawk's eye. So whenever a paper comes to me, I'll be that spotting the error part. I'll be doing the best. So teachers, you know, they'll be like, they'll do a lot of foolproofing, they'll do and they'll come, but still, so where I am concentrating is, as teachers, let me not make a mistake and then cut a sorry figure in front of the child, because the child is going to come and ask, ma'am, is it wrong that if I write everything lay egg? Definitely it is not wrong. So as teachers, whenever we sit to prepare a question paper, let us make sure that we prepare an answer key also simultaneously. So I think for birds, if I choose feathers to keep on, that is more appropriate. Yes, I do understand. And for frog, it is going to be webbed feet. And for ant, so how it is, how we tell, maybe for bee collect nectars, that I know. A fish lays eggs, I'll write number 5. So ant as internal ears, I'll go for 3. But the child may not do like this. The child will think from it only from its convenience, or its prism may be different. So ma'am, avoid ambiguity. The question should not be ambiguous at all, because you are going to be in trouble when the child writes the answer, the same answer for all the questions, which is correct. Yeah. Shall we move on, teacher? So match the following. Especially you think from all the perspective. Birds kvarana answers irika. Will any other point be relevant to the birds? Okay, fine. If it is relevant, take it off. Give something which is not relevant, because there are times that we may make mistakes, because every human tendency is to make errors, definitely acceptable. But let us take a small effort. Maybe 99% I'll try not to commit mistakes. Okay, next is choose the best answer. Somebody can you please read it for me, teachers? The first question.
Which of the following
Or not.
Okay, Bhumi Devi ma'am.
Are
Yes,
not
ma'am.
seen in cold
Which of the following are not seen in cold winters?
Yes, ma'am. Options are lizard, frog,
Frog,
rabbit, and a
rabbit,
peacock.
and peacock.
Lizard. Okay, ma'am. My question is this question even up? I mean, is it clear? The question, is it 100% the fact?
No.
Or yeah, how can I reframe it then? Is there any possible ways that I can reframe even better? This one question.
Hibernation,
Okay,
aestivation.
so yeah, fine. No, in the same sentence, if I can introduce one more word, one small word.
Animal. Which animal?
Which of the following? Okay.
Which animal is not seen in cold winter?
Hmm. Okay, fine. So
It's the grammatical.
no, it's not the grammar part, because I again repeat, as science teachers, we need not bother about the grammar part. Here, some words like, I would like to introduce just one word. Which of the following are not often seen in cold winters? Often.
Yeah.
It is not that if the child says, no, ma'am, in winter also I see lizards on my wall. What will you do, ma'am? What teachers, what we will do? So again, in a child's perspective, definitely in winters, they would have seen lizards, house lizards, because there are 2 types of lizards, garden ones and the house ones. We know that in our textbook, there is that the right answer is lizard. Of course, they hibernate and all that. So if you introduce this one small word, they're not seen often. They do come out, but they are not seen often in cold winters. So we'll just move on to the next question, ma'am. The height of Mount Everest is?
8,849.
49. Okay. Again, can we introduce one word into it which is missing in that?
The approximate 8,000.
Thank you, teachers. The approximate. So please, whenever we frame a question, because we know that Mount Everest keeps changing every day, the height of it keeps changing every day. And whenever it comes to the numbers, let it be in the factual concepts. So we'll try to give approximately. So we have to tell them what is approx. So that is the right word. Thank you, teacher, for saying that. The approximate height of Mount Everest is?
Height of the Mount Everest is.
Yes. So the word is approximate. Next. Which is a common feature of the following animals? Like, see, why I have given this question is a picture-based question.
Most common feature
Yes,
of the following
teachers.
animal.
And one more thing is, like, instead of giving the names of the animals, cow, dog, bat, cat, just if we give the name, which is a common feature, or instead, if you can just give picture-based question, that will be more, children, when they see the EVS paper, I somehow believe that it should be so pictorial, colorful. Not that we can't have a color Xerox, but then it could have more pictures. So it will take little bit of your time to do this. I'll help you. I'll be guiding you on that also. Copy paste pictures, how to choose a picture and all that. So if you can include pictures like this, which is a common feature of the following animals, like fur on their body, scales, gills to breathe, give birth to young ones.
Give
So the
birth
option
to
will
young
be,
ones.
yeah, give birth to young ones. Yeah. Okay, next is the fill in the blank. The gas that is essential for living thing is.
Oxygen.
Okay, now I have a doubt. Why not it is carbon dioxide? Don't we consider plants? Don't plants take carbon dioxide?
Yes.
Yes, of
Yes.
course, ma'am.
So the answer could be both carbon dioxide as well as oxygen also.
Oxygen.
So
Oxygen.
if I want to make it more specific,
The gas that is essential for human being.
Essential for human
So-
being. Yes.
you can just for plants to live or for plants or for animals, whatever you want. What is the expected answer? Based on that, you frame your question. So instead
And
of this
also we should
ambiguity,
ask like this, the gas that is essential for autotropism.
autotrophs. Yeah, that is also one other higher order way of asking is autotrophs. Of course, if they know what are autotrophs, definitely you can introduce this word also. Or we can put a picture here simply. The gas that is essential for this is, no, in case if in your class test, you can just have it, or plants or animals. So next, pumpkin plant has a dash stem. Answer is
Weak
green
stem.
stem,
Soft.
correct. Soft stem is correct. Weak stem is correct. So multiple answers again, multiple
Yes.
answers. So if you're in your answer key when you're framing it, so you may be thinking that no, my children will write only weak stem. No, there are children when sitting in the exam hall, they forget that it has a weak stem. It is a creeper. It can't climb, but they can go also. They would have seen it green, or they know it is soft also. So let us not, if in answer key it comes only weak, so there'll be one strict teacher. Na week mark mark I've come across such varieties of teachers also. Teachers, please, when you correct it, when you get the answer key, first is that the school wise, your own school, you sit and discuss what are the other possible answers that we may expect, for which the general practice we do is before the answer key discussion starts, one paper of a slow learner, one paper of a mediocre, and one paper of a top scorer we take, and then we sit and correct it. So while correcting, we will come across, if we come across multiple answers, or if we come across out of the box thinking answers, so we make it a note. So during the discussion, we ask, ma'am, if the child has written this answer, can we give marks? So for this, first you have to get a question paper, go through it, prepare an answer key, or sit and discuss. But many teachers, maybe directly you come from the exam hall and the meeting starts at 1:30 or 2, you didn't even go through the question paper. So in that case, you will not be able to put your thoughts forward and get marks for your children. See, all this we talk in case if you are having a common exam. Whenever we have a common exam, if the exams happen in the morning, we'll have discussions in the afternoon. So make it a priority that you get the question paper and then you work out the question paper. And if there's any ambiguity or you will get the answer key also. So if you feel that apart from this, if the child writes this also, it should be given marks. Because in answer key, they'll be giving you one answer or any relevant answer they can give. So under that relevant answer, all these options can be given. So as teachers, what we have to do is set things up. We have to sit, discuss among our parallels first. So what are the expected answers? Maybe your class, what have you taught in a different way? So we'll put up all that, sum it up, and then we can ask, ma'am, this also can be awarded. This is not wrong. Next, rose flower is used for making dash.
Perfumes,
Perfumes.
scent,
Yeah, scents. Bouquet, yes. Maybe a child who Gulkan, yes. Maybe rose water. Yeah, so nothing is wrong here. So again,
Essence.
multiple essence. Essence, yes. Gulkan, maybe a child who eats. So we see, so as
Rose
teachers,
water.
we sit here and we come across so many multiple answers which a child can give. So that's what I'm saying. So in case if you want, if your objective is very narrow, no, I want this particular answer, then you have to reframe your question. Again, there was this, actually this question was asked in one of the paper, like dash is used for making perfumes. Of course, we will come across like rose and jasmine. Ma'am, there is one perfume or essence which is got from muscadere. Muscadere, the skin of the muscadere is also used for making essence. So a child can write that also. Maybe if the teacher doesn't know that and the child has written muscadere, please don't score it off. Ask. Put this in your group or ask it to your parallels or Google it at least. Because when the child comes in the class and asks you, confronts you, ma'am, why did you keep this wrong? Maybe the child should not be in the opinion that the teacher doesn't know it. So just look for all the answers that can be there for one particular question. Next question is, dash can find us by the smell of a body.
Mosquitoes.
Okay. Mosquitoes. Dogs. So you will have this in the super senses lesson, or you have treat for mosquitoes in the NCERT textbook we have. Actually, we will go with only mosquitoes or dogs. Is there anything we can go out of it, like they can find us by the smell of a body, maybe which you would have come across? Anything else that finds us by the smell?
Dog, ma'am.
Yeah, dogs. Okay, so now we have come to either it is
What about
lice,
rotten food?
Ants. No. Rotten food can find us. No, ma'am. The question is asked in a different way. Dash can find us by the smell of a body. Actually, you know, the lions, the tigers, they can also smell.
Yes.
And
They can sense that. They have sharp sense of smell. So if they write a deer or a lion or a tiger, that is also not wrong.
Shark also, ma'am. Even shark.
Definitely, ma'am. So these animals have sharp sense of smell. So again, now as teachers, maybe as collectively teachers, we just went on with only mosquitoes and dogs. So instead, if the child has written a lion or a tiger, don't score it off. So think, oh, idu varalama, is it possible? Fine, okay. So we are not telling the child to think only from this level. If the child thinks beyond that, definitely we have to award them marks. Okay, next is malaria is caused by dash.
Mosquitoes, female anopheles.
Again,
Female anopheles.
Female mosquitoes.
female anopheles.
Yeah.
So teachers, this is where your children are going to lose marks, because if you get a common paper, so we are going to tell you, if the child has only written a female anopheles, give them mark. If they have written only a mosquito, don't give them. If they have written a plasmodium, don't give them. If they have written an anopheles alone, don't give them marks. So please train them that I know this is an ambiguity, but then we will train them whenever a question about this is asked. Don't just train as mosquito. You tell them to write the complete one. And it is not only the anopheles, because it's the female one. If it is going to be simple anopheles also, they'll tell you not to give marks. So please guide them. See, for first few exams, maybe they'll be like, they'll have to lose marks. But yes, teacher.
Mosquitoes spread the malarias. Mosquitoes
carrier. They are the carriers
due to the virus.
No, ma'am.
It is a protozoan. Plasmodium. It is a protozoan actually. Protozoan. See, that's what.
Protozoan. Right, yes.
It's a protozoan and plasmodium.
Yes.
I know that female anopheles mosquito is just a carrier of this it is just a carrier. But what is given in the text, ma'am, that's what we have to go through the text. In text, I don't think you have a protozoan, because unless you introduce the 5 classes of microbes, you can't tell them what is a protozoan is. And plasmodium, I think there's no mention of plasmodium. A treat for mosquitoes.
No, ma'am. Protozoan alone we mentioned in the book. Plasmodium is not mentioned, ma'am.
In class 5 textbook, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Protozoan is mentioned, ma'am.
Yes, it is there, ma'am.
We follow in Oxford books, ma'am. Oxford.
Oh, okay. I'm talking about NCERT. In NCERT, there's no plasmodium or protozoan. It's just they have given the female anopheles and they take blood sample and they test it in the lab and they find out it is caused by this, and so it is spread, of course. So malaria is spread by, yes, that would still make sense, right, teachers? It would make sense now. Malaria is spread by.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so
Can
you
we
will
ask
have,
malaria disease is caused by?
yes, ma'am.
Stagnation of
But-
water.
Ma'am, again, it is caused by, this two will be the more appropriate. Or if you want to look for the microbe which causes the malaria, or this is a carrier actually. The female Anopheles mosquito is a carrier of the disease. So there are two cycles of it which happens, one in the mosquito and another in us. So better is it spread by this Anopheles, female Anopheles. Okay, now just moving on to the question answer part. Teachers, can we? Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Now this is a very simple question. What happens when plants do not get sunlight? So the answer can be in one word. Can you, maybe, what are the expected answers, teachers, when you give this question?
Photosynthesis. Photosynthesis.
No, what happens
No
when plants do
photosynthesis.
not, no photosynthesis. Of course, the child may write no photosynthesis.
No photosynthesis.
But I don't suggest, I don't frame questions like that. I intend you also not frame questions which is very obvious of asking the answer yes or no. And one word answers. Instead, stimulate them to think. Record your observation. Again, ma'am, these words, they can be very well given in your question papers. Record your observation for the following cases. Number 1, Ram placed a potted plant in a dark room and left it for a month. He watered it regularly. Next is, Sita placed a potted plant near the window of a room. The other windows of the rooms are closed. So I'm giving the condition also very clearly. And she watered it regularly. So this is the question. So actually, if this question is asked, first of all, children will tell, ma'am, where is the question? Isn't it, teachers? Which is the question?
Yes.
Exactly, ma'am.
Because the first time they are asked like this, they'll be looking, Ayo, where is the question? Because there is no word what, which, when, how, describe, explain. There is nothing like that. Instead, the question given is record your observation. Record your observation in the sense they have to list it out again, write it. So you can expect such questions also. See, again, I'm not trying to put you in a state of fear. Oh my goodness, how children are going to be, how they're going to face a question paper from DAV. No, I'm not telling that. What I'm saying is the question paper can be very easy also, but I'm just asking you to set the bar high, little bit. Don't underestimate children, because, if we train them right from 3rd standard, when they come to the middle school or the higher classes, it'll be a piece of cake for them. So training can start from here. Ma'am, again, I'm telling, let us not do such type of testing in the term exam. I'm very particular in that. Let us not test all our knowledge in the term exams. You can test this one question for 5 marks, put it in the board. Don't tell them, don't explain them anything. You just put it in the board. See what the children have done. Maybe in your class, at least 5% would have answered. So at that point, you will understand that, okay, maybe I was thinking that it is too high for the children, but children will prove you wrong. Many times it happens, they will prove you wrong. So we'll be thinking, oh, how a 3rd standard child will know this, but some in the class definitely might know that. And for the rest of the children, definitely will give a hand holding. We'll tell them how
For
to
this
go about
question,
such
excuse
answer.
me, ma'am, for this
Yes,
question, we have to conduct an activity. Through that activity, we can ask the child what happened, what you observed. Through the activity, the child can learn the concept easily.
Definitely, ma'am. That's what, when you teach photosynthesis, we'll be telling plants need air, water, sunlight, it will grow. But instead, go beyond that. Go beyond that. Maybe you give them 3 conditions. Condition A, condition B, condition C. One plant was kept in sunlight, it was watered regularly, and
I select the 3 children. These 3 conditions I gave one child. After then, I asked the child what happened after 3 days, what you observed. Like this, if we are teaching, the child can easily answer for the questions.
Definitely. Even it could be brought to classroom also, ma'am. One potted plant can be kept near the window. One potted plant can be kept inside the cupboard and need not water also. This could be done as a group activity also. So the child will have a first-hand experience. So basically, we are preparing the child to sit for the exam, which can have a multiple orientation towards one particular question. The simplest way of asking the question is this. What happens when plants do not? That is the simplest way of asking the same question, but it could be even asked in this way. So again, let the child not panic. The child, when it goes through, okay, fine, at least let me answer. If the child has answered, then it's a win-win situation. If the child does not answer, then we have to step up. Okay, what did you not understand in this? We have to always analyze what went wrong, which part of the question you did not understand. The child will point, maybe, ma'am, I didn't know what was the question, or the first part of it. Record your observation following cases. Ma'am, I didn't know what it is. Then it is the vocabulary that we have to introduce in our classes. Yeah. So teachers, next question is a very, very straight, simple language question. Differentiate between a frog and a fish. So you would have trained the children in this way, like, and then draw a table, a column, write frog and fish and write 3 points or whatever points you know. But my way of asking the same question, I wouldn't give this in recall, remember. So I would make them think a little bit. So I'll give them as X and Y. So you can expect this type of questions also in the common question papers. Yeah, can someone read it for me, teachers? Someone?
An animal X lives both on land and water. An animal Y lives only in water.
Okay.
Identify the habitat of X and Y.
So what is the habitat of X, ma'am? What is the name given to the habitat?
It lives in land and water. That is an amphibian.
Ah, yes, the answer, expected answer is amphibian. It is an amphibian. X is an amphibian and Y is aquatic.
Yes.
So here the question asked is not an animal, because the children, whenever we give this question, first thing is they'll write the animal. Oh, X is frog, Y is, but the question here asked is about the habitat. I didn't ask anything about its name. So please train them. Again, second question is a very straightforward, simple language question. Differentiate between a frog and a child. That's how we write it in classwork. Am I right, teachers? In our classwork, that will be the question, or any straightforward question. But instead, so maybe you can have this sample questions also. Maybe once you finish the classwork or when you have time, you just give them sample questions. You can, great minds can sit together and then you can come up with some questions like this. So an animal X, again, mention any one adaptation that helps the animal to survive in the habitat. So here objective is, first I have tested the habitat. So the child, one objective is achieved. The child will know the habitat. Next is adaptation. I'm coming to one of the adaptation. So X has both gills and moist skin to breathe, or it has webbed feet. I can write anything. I'm sorry, what am I writing? Yeah, frog. Here I'll write about a fish. So one adaptation is it has gills to breathe, or it has fins to swim. It is a streamlined body, something, any one adaptation I'm going to mention, which I know. Next, based on the information, name animal X and Y. So again, so if I have to split up marks also, half plus half, any one adaptation, again, I'll give half plus half or 1 plus 1. Information, any the child can write frog and a fish. Next, bring out the difference between X and Y in terms of their respiratory organ. So here the question is very specific, very specific. I have asked them to differentiate only in their respiratory organ. So again, the term respiratory organ. So for a frog, what is the respiratory organ? For a fish? So that is my expected answer there. Yeah, gills. Of course, if the child has understood that. So my objectives are achieved. I have tested so many objectives in one question, but I have made it into different subdivision instead of giving it as a single question.
Excellent, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. So next is, again, this question, everybody would have come across. Draw and label the human digestive system. That is an easy question, but we'll frame for even a slow learner. We will think that, okay, let the child at least score 3 marks. Nothing wrong. You put this in term question paper, nothing wrong in that. Let the child get mark. But in your school exams or in your class test for any other assessment, give them this way. Sketch the human digestive system. We are introducing this word, sketch. Sketch the human digestive system and label the parts based on the clues which are given. Teachers, again and again, you ask the children to read the question completely and understand, read and understand what are the things that are asked. Sketches to draw, you have to label, but based on the clues. Now it goes like this. The part where digestion begins. So they should draw. So they should be in a position to draw the human digestive system beginning from the mouth. So they should be able to draw beginning from, pardon my diagram, sorry, beginning from the mouth. And then they should be able to label. So again, I'll just go to my, so A, the part where digestion begins. So what I expect them is, I expect them to label A here. I want them to go here, write it as A and write it as mouth. So next is the part that receives bile, that receives bile. What is the teachers? What receives the bile?
Stomach.
The part that
Stomach.
small intestine. No, not the stomach. It is the small intestine. It's the small intestine. So it is the small intestine that receives the bile. And next is the part where the food is completely digested. Again, it is going to be small intestine. Yeah, of course, it is also small intestine. Now, teachers, one thing is, supposing if the child doesn't write A, B, and C. As teachers, again, oh, child has understood, we will give marks. But my question is, what if the child has thought that A is small intestine? Maybe the child's digestion begins in small intestine, ends in small intestine. That could also be right. I mean, the child would have considered that also. So without this subdivision, again, we have to train them in the class. So what is asked, which subdivision is asking about? A is mouth, B is small intestine, C is small intestine. Or supposing if it is liver, the question is about a large creamy gland or red gland. There is a D, that is a liver. So please ask them to label as per the clues. What is A, what is B, and what is C or D. You tell them, if you don't write this ABCD, I am not going to give you marks. If you don't write this ABCD, because the question asks clearly, A is the part where the digestion begins. So you have to label it as A. Go and label it as A. See, there were, many interesting things. Like the child writes it A here and writes it like that. The part where digestion begins. This was also one of the answer we got. A, the child wrote, and it went to the mouth, labeled it correctly, but their child didn't write mouth. The child writes the part where digestion begins. What shall we do, teachers, if the child writes like this?
Logically,
Only, ma'am.
Half mark can be given.
Half a mark, because for identification, we can give half, but the child has not written the name. It has not written the name. So what I will do in my question is, again, I will frame it very properly, sketch the human digestive system and label or identify and name the parts. That is why we have given the label, the part, name it. For naming it, there is a mark. For identification, there is mark. So half for mark. Identification, half for
and half name.
So we will have our split ups like this. Analogy based questions, analogy, which is commonly seen in our DAV group of school papers, analogy. Maybe for some of us, it is new. So analogy is, we relate certain things to the one which is given near to them. Like, for example, night blindness, vitamin A. What is related to iron? So first the child has to know how is night blindness and vitamin A related.
Anemia.
Yeah, loss of vitamin A results in night blindness. So now loss of iron in the body will result in
Anemia.
Anemic. Anemia.
So next is
Oxygen.
yeah, oxygen.
Carbon dioxide. It is about
Yeah, thank you, teachers. Yeah, so oxygen inhalation. During inhalation, yeah, cutting trees is deforestation. Planting trees is afforestation.
Planting afforestation.
Maybe teachers, I can wait for a minute. If you can give me some analogies, it will be helpful. So I'll feel better that whether the objective is achieved. Analogy. Can you suggest any analogies?
Nose,
Maybe you okay. Nose.
olfactory nerve.
Okay.
Nerves.
Yeah. Olfactory nerve.
Ears.
Okay.
Auditory nerve.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. Some other teachers. Thank you, ma'am. Bhavana, ma'am.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll give you a clue. Can you take it from like a herbivore, carnivore? That even concept can be tested. That's an easy one to do. A herbivore and a carnivore.
Eating plants.
Plant-eating animal. So I'll just give it as a herbivore.
Herbivore. Cow.
Herbivore. Cow. Okay.
Cow.
So I'm going to fill here. Maybe dash.
Carnivore.
Okay, I'll write carnivore. Dash.
Carnivore.
Dash.
Tiger.
A dog or something like that. Oh, no. Dog is not a carnivore. Sorry. Dog is not a carnivore. It's an omnivore.
Tiger,
Yeah,
ma'am.
that's an tiger. So teachers got this analogy type of questions?
Yes.
So I can give some more of it. Like, sorry, please tell me, teacher.
Ma'am, Earth.
Earth.
Inner planet.
Okay, Earth is inner planet.
Dash outer planet. Any of the outer.
Okay, ma'am. Correct. Earth inner planet. And then we have dash outer planet. That's also right. Correct, ma'am. And then one more like rose is a shrub. Watermelon is dash. I'll just write it. Rose, shrub,
Creeper.
watermelon. Yeah, creeper. So analogy type, definitely you would see in your question papers. This is likely to be asked. And then a wolf pack, elephant, herd, elephant herd, yes.
Herd or parade also we can write, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Parade is a new word for me, ma'am, like collective noun, but I've heard of a herd. That's my learning today. Parade. Okay.
Pride of lion.
Pride of lions, yes. Okay, so we can, that collective nouns we can choose, like if you have taught that, definitely we can make it into analogy type of question. So you can expect this type of questions in your question papers if it is a common one. And then now coming to find the error and rewrite the sentence. So can somebody please point out what is the error in this and what I have to?
Pongal is the
Festival of Tamil Nadu.
Okay. You are expecting that the child should write instead of Punjab, Tamil Nadu. I am see what is my point of view is if the child writes instead of Pongal, Logri.
Bihu.
It is a harvest festival of Punjab. It is also right either way. So to avoid this ambiguity, what we should do is you have to please underline which part of the statement it's you mark it as an error and then you want them to rewrite. Supposing if it is I am going to write Punjab, that is the error here. Then your objective is very clear. So Pongal is the harvest festival of dash. So please underline it. So you will find the error and rewrite the sentence. So you please underline. And then in this, what can I underline here? Potato is an edible
root. You have to underline it.
It's an edible stem. So, or it is an ambiguous. So it could be like this also. Yes, the child even can write carrot is an edible root. So it's not wrong in the child's part. Let us not confuse them in the exam. So let us make our question paper very clear. There should be clarity. What is the expected answer again? So for that, we'll help them framing it in a very clear way. And coming to the map, can teachers identify one mistake in this map?
Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh separation.
Yeah, that is missing. I mean, the partition is not done.
Ma'am, actually direction is not given.
Okay, the directions.
Eastern states.
Here.
Yes.
Okay, the cluster is not.
Sri Lanka is up.
Sri Lanka.
Bangladesh is not fully covered, ma'am.
Gujarat.
Okay, ma'am.
Gujarat partition.
Partition. See, again, teachers, that's what this actually last minute. See, when there are question papers, sometimes it is that we give the map also along with the question paper to take a printout. And so it so happened that during one of the examination, by mistake, we didn't get the question map in the question paper, and we had to get it from outside. And all of a sudden, you know, someone from the school will run to get the map, and the map which they got was this map. And the question asked in map was, locate the state in which you find the Golconda Fort. So now the problem was, Telangana is not divided here. Andhra is not divided. So my son came up with this. Yeah, many states are not divided. So since this map was given, the problem was my child knew that it is Telangana and he couldn't identify where Telangana was because he didn't know Telangana was born from Andhra Pradesh. He knew that this was Andhra Pradesh, but he didn't know about the partition. So what he just wrote was Telangana, he wrote, and Golconda Fort. For identification, the mark was awarded, but for locating it in the map, the mark was not awarded. Again, we are penalizing the child. There are two school of thought. Now, some teachers will tell, though it is a partition, at least the child should have known that is nearby Andhra somewhere. So some teachers will argue this way. The child should have done something in the map. The child should have located something in the map. But there is a school of thought again. Where is Telangana? You have missed the whole state there. So what is the point in you asking the child? Because the child knows it is in Telangana, but there is no Telangana there. So if it marks anywhere else, is it right or wrong? If the child puts this in Andhra Pradesh, is it right or wrong, teachers?
Right, ma'am, right.
So again, that's what there are two schools of thought. One teacher may say, Andhra, how can it be in Andhra? It is in Telangana. So whenever we give the map for assessment, definitely we'll see to that the map is updated one. And how we ask the question, again, for identification, there'll be half mark. And for putting it in the correct place, labeling it, there will be half. So please tell your children to follow the same. For example, if you like the largest oil field, the child knows it is Assam. So, but the child writes Assam here. Sorry, Maharashtra, right, ma'am? At least the largest producer of wheat is Punjab. That much Punjab.
Yes.
So the child knows it as Punjab. It has identified that the place is Punjab, for which it will be given half. But then if the child points Punjab to this, so you will be reducing mark only for not locating in the map. You will reduce half a mark for that. So please tell your children this also. They have to write as well as they have to mark it. So definitely it will be half plus half. Identification half, and for locating it is going to be half. Got it, teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so this is a new map. So I think I have done for the today's session.